I'm messaging somebody right as we go. Sorry. Hi. I got a couple messages. I apologize. I got a couple messages of people trying to find the link for the meeting. So I wanted to make sure that people got those because yes, we switched over from our regular format of Zoom, and now we are in a live show format because the book club recently surpassed 16,000 global members. So we got too many people for a Zoom call because constantly we had issues with not everybody being able to get in and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, this song gets me so hyped now. I should sell that as like a ringtone. Welcome, guys. Welcome to our May discussion. Yeah, for 16K. Thanks, Mike. Thank you guys so much for here. I see people in the comments have been saying hi. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Book Club Day. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hi. Yeah, I need to do something with that song. I need to we'll get to that. Anyway, welcome to our May discussion of one of the most ubiquitous nonfiction books of all time. And Stiff is one of the reasons that this book club exists, because this, to me, is just the epitome of the Morbidly Curious Book Club. This is Stiff by Mary Roach, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. And I'm holding the new copy here. However, of course, you guys know it used to look like this, with the feet on it and the toe tag. But the new edition is what you guys got in your BookBox subscription service, and I will go into that in a second. And it also came with a new epilogue, which I will read a part of later because I found it quite fascinating. So this book, when did this come out? 2003. In the new edition here with the kind of minimal, what are those called? Minimal covers? Minimalist design. Yeah. Minimalist design that she did for all of her books. And this is the Stiff one, but in 2021, I believe, is when the new epilogue was released. And she talks about some of the things that have changed. Obviously, more has changed since 2021, but highly suggest you actually hate feet. Yeah, the cover is definitely a choice. I will say, if you're on, I saw a couple people reading this, heard about a couple people reading this on an airplane, which is certainly a choice. I never tell people to not be proud of their morbidly curious books in public. But given the plane chapter in this book, that was a choice. That is a decision that you made. So I will say this is a bit more inconspicuous, I guess, or conspicuous than this. So whatever. So anyway, welcome to the May discussion of that. Hopefully everybody can see us. I apologize. My phone is on Do Not Disturb. So if you do send me a message, I may not see it. However, I can see all of your comments. I do have Instagram up as well. And see, we got some people over there. So if you guys have any questions for us, please let us know. All right, Mike. Well, I cannot say I'm surprised by that by any means. So thank you guys so much for being here. The quick housekeeping before we get started. I do have to throw up, of course, a quick thank you to all of our Patreon members. I forgot to do this last month, so I do apologize. But shout out to all of you guys. Thank you so much for your support. It helps us keep the lights on it over here because the Morbidly Curious Book Club is a small business. So I do appreciate that. And of course, with the Patreon, you get a bunch of goodies, including end of the month wrap-up videos from me talking about all the weird shit that I have read lately. And boy, is May going to be fun. I have read some weird shit lately. And then some bonus reading vlogs of me doing some stuff and behind-the-scenes stuff. And also the Morbidly Curious Fiction Edition book club. We just had our May meeting. We meet for about an hour and a half before this live show. So if you're into that, that is all over on our website. I put the link to that in the chat, but I will do it again. It's just the morbidlycuriousbookclub.com. And from there, you can see all the goodies. And this is something that I actually have printed out that I put in like one of those plastic holders for my chapter meetings. So for those of you who don't know, the Morbidly Curious Book Club does have about 64, 65, I can't remember the exact number, global chapters where you can meet with people in person, which is always a good time. And I am near the Charlotte, North Carolina area. So I host the Charlotte, the Belmont, and the Mooresville, North Carolina chapters. And I typically have this on display that just kind of shows people, hey, here's what we're reading next. Here's ways that you can support us. So this is a good visual for you guys here as well. And on the back, of course, is this massive QR code. But anyway, so here's what we're reading for the rest of the year. As you can see, June, July, August, that's everything that we're reading for the rest of the year. And of course, I gave you guys a little blurry black and white picture of what we got going on in January 2026. I was going to say January 2024 for a second there. Wow. Okay. January 2026. I do have the entire year of 2026 planned, so that is going to be super exciting. So looking forward to that. Also, again, Morbidly Curious Fiction Edition down there, Patreon exclusive book club. Of course, the podcast, which I will talk about here in a second, merchandise, collabs that we have done, and the BookBox subscription service. So if you guys are subscribed, you guys see here, my dear friend Annalise prints you guys off the amazing stickers that you get in the box. And the June box was crazy. That had a bunch of shit in it. That was really good. Bumper sticker. There was a pride sticker in there that that I made, and she was able to print off for me. Of course, the optional stickers. These do not come on the books when you get them in the boxes, but it does say Morbidly Curious Book Club pick that you can put anywhere. And then, of course, just say traditional sticker. And these are good stickers. Okay, so careful where you put them. If you've got sticker anxiety, like myself, careful where you put these guys. They are not going anywhere. But something cool is we do get typically, and we've gotten all of them for the most part, signed book plates. So we do have Mary Roach's crazy ass teeth looking signature here, which I do love. Thank you so much to Mary Roach and her team for providing that. But also the May book box did come with a bonus book. So every month the box comes with a hardcover, but the months that the book came out in paperback only, you get 2 books, so you get your money's worth. And that came with a copy of Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Dowdy. That was also signed. And we do have books left. If you support the box, you also support a local bookstore of mine, a small indie bookstore, Fred and June's, out of Mooresville, North Carolina. And they do still have copies of Stiff signed. So if you would like to get a box, get a copy, however you would like to do that, please send them an email, contact them, because we do have copies as well. Okay, quick shout out to the Morbidly Curious Book Club companion podcast. Obviously, I did not get to speak to Mary Roach this month. We are chatting in September, which I did put over on our Instagram. I was speaking with her team. She's only available to do tours and speaking arrangements later this year when she is promoting her new book. So that will be coming out later this year. But I did get some bonus episodes in there for you guys. Starting off earlier this month, I released 2 episodes because Rick Emerson and I spoke for like 5 hours. And that was a archives episode. So the companion podcast started in 2024, where each month I speak with the author. But the archives episodes are books that we read previous to 2024. So Unmask Alice, I think, was a 2022 book club pick. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I loved chatting with Rick. It's a great 2-part episode. I highly recommend going and checking it out because we talk about so many amazing things. And I just love Unmask Alice. It's a required reading. So that's available. Today, there was an episode that released of a book that came out May 6th, which is Little Bosses Everywhere by Bridget Reed, How the Pyramid Scheme Shaped America. That was an incredible episode as well. Thank you so much, Jen. Incredible episode as well. So that released today. I have not promoted it too much because I wanted to focus on the Stiff meeting and everything, but I will be putting out the promo and everything that I typically do. So definitely check out Little Bosses Everywhere. Thank you so much to Penguin and Crown for sending me copies of that and letting me do a giveaway. So congratulations. I think your name was Elizabeth that won the giveaway for that. And later this week, I do have an episode releasing with Sarah Edmondson, who wrote a previous book club pick, Scarred, about her time in Nixium. And that was a eye-opening podcast. I learned a lot. And she put me in touch with a couple people that are going to be on the podcast very soon that I'm very excited about and we'll share later on down the road. Very excited about that. So anyway, lots of housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into Stiff. I'm joined here with some incredible book club members and people here that I love so dearly. Thank you guys so much for joining us, especially some of you guys who were able to join us kind of last minute. If you don't mind going around, we'll start with Tam, go to Kim, Steph, Annie. Introduce yourselves. And if you happen to run any chapter meetings, let me know.
Hi, I'm Tam, not Cam. And yeah, speaking of the chapter meetings, if you're in the greater Los Angeles area, I run the Los Angeles chapter. We have our meetings at Hollywood Forever, and to avoid the Memorial Day craziness, I set our chapter meeting for May for next Saturday the 31st. So come on out if you're in the area. We would love to have you. And hi, Hannah, I think you're here in the comments. So yes, Hannah and I would love to have you. You asked the overall thoughts, right? Or are we just introducing
Just introduce yourself.
Right now?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, did I call you Cam, by the way?
No, just it's a thing now to say Tam, not Cam, and for Cam to say Tam, not Tam. So
I was like, oh my God, I didn't do it again, did I?
No.
Perfect. Yes. I wish I was still in LA to come hang out with you guys sometimes. I will. One of these days I will come.
Cam is here too, though. Also
Yes,
in the
Cam
comments.
is here.
Yeah.
Cam is right here. Yes. Thank you. Kimberly.
Hello, I'm Kimberly. I am in Northern California. I don't run the chapter, but I do go to our local meetings. I would love to come down to LA and go to yours. That'd be so cool to go to the Hollywood Forever and do that in there.
Well,
but,
maybe if you're visiting at some point, you can come. But yes,
I still have family down there, so maybe I'll have to find them around. Yeah,
we'll have to coordinate that. And also,
Yeah.
if you're going to LA, live in LA, and you haven't been to Hollywood Forever Cemetery, it's a must. Go see my friend Carrie Bible. She does the tours over there. Go support Carrie. She's amazing. Love Hollywood Forever.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm former mortician. I practiced for a little under 5 years, but now I've completely changed professions and working in the medical research sector. And so this is where I'm at now, doing book club work.
We have lots of questions for Kimberly about being a mortician. We will get to those. So thank you so much for being here, guys. Steph, hello.
Hi, I'm Steph. I am from Canada. I'm like our local. I'm like our resident Canadian.
Resident, yes. You and Mike
live there all the time.
Yes.
I do not run our Toronto chapter. That is Sherry. She's wonderful. But you should come hang out with us if you are in the GTA Greater Toronto area and you do want to come out. Also, you can totally, if you're coming from a little further away in Southern Ontario, there's a few of us who take the train in and you can come hang out with us on the journey as well. It's lots of fun.
I love that. I need to do like a tour. Like I need to go around and like.
You should do a tour. That would be so fun.
Oh, I should do that. Oh, I love that.
That would be so fun. Please do. I am a hospice social worker by trade, so I deal with everything before you become a dead body, but while you're on your way.
Yes. Love.
Hi, I'm Annie. I'm in Florida. I don't run any of the chapters. I don't even think there's a chapter around me. I'm in Tallahassee. But I work for the legislature, so nothing related to any of this, unless we have bills that relate to some of this, which sometimes we do. So that's all about me.
That's fine. Listen, Tam works in finance. I'm in marketing.
Yeah,
There's no correlation other than I like reading weird shit sometimes. So love
my own man in finance with blue eyes, but I'm not 6'5", so
I love it. I love it. I see your question over on Instagram, and I just lost it. Honey Wine. How much overlap was the second chapter of Stiff with the upcoming butchering art selection? So it is interesting. So the butchering art is our July book, but also there was a lot of overlap with this book in Gory Details, which we read in March as well.
Yeah.
Butchering art, I actually have not read, so I can't answer that one.
It's good. It's good.
Oh, I'm excited for it.
Yes.
What were you going to say, Tam, about you were chatting?
Oh, there was a lot of overlap with cannibalism as well, because with there was a lot of things that Bill Shutt mentioned in Cannibalism: A Perfectly Natural History. So shout out to that too, because love it when that happens.
Shout out to Bill. Cannibalism was a great book. Also, while we're on the topic, I will not be able to speak with Lindsay Fitzharris for July either. Unfortunately, that's going to be pushed back as well. But similar to how I did in May, I will be filling it with bonus and archive episodes. So there will be something for you to listen to. I do promise. Some very exciting stuff is happening. I'm so excited. So anyway, let's get into Stiff. For those of you who don't know, one of the most listen, I call it one of the most ubiquitous books of nonfiction. However, I read it last, I think, October or November. So don't take my word for it. So Stiff is about, for 2,000 years, cadavers, some willingly, some unwillingly, which we will get into, have been involved in science's boldest strides and weirdest undertakings. They've tested France's first guillotines, been crucified in a Parisian laboratory to test the authenticity of the Shroud of Turin. Is it Turin? And helped solve the mystery of the TWA Flight 800. For every new surgical procedure, from heart transplants to bunion surgery, I thought for some reason when I first glanced over that it said brain, but then I saw bunion, and that's not what I was expecting. Cadavers have helped make history in their quiet way. Lee Simpson, of Time Out New York said this is delightful, though never disrespectful. Agreed. Stiff investigates the strange lives of our bodies post-mortem and answers the question, what should we do after we die? Which was a great question. So let's get into it. Tell me in the comments, tell me chat, for those of you that are out there watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, tell me what you guys rated this on a scale of either 1 to 5. We were just having this discussion on our fiction meeting. We also have the 10-point scale on our book club's site. So if you do it on the 10-point scale, please let us know if it's like a 3 out of 5 or a 3 out of 10, because those are very different. So let me know if you rate these books, if you give it a star rating. Let me know what you guys thought of Mary Roach's writing. If this was your first book from her, let me know if this was your first book from her, and let me know if you're going to continue to read from her. So thank you, Hannah. 6 out of 5. Thank you. We do love Bill. And I see an 8, 4-star. The Pyramid Scheme book. Yes, it was called Little Bosses Everywhere by Bridget Reed, and it's got this adorable women in there, the boss babes in their suits. So all right, loving all the comments coming in, but we'll go ahead and I'll keep showcasing these. Go ahead and get started. Tam, let's go over pretty much the same things. Rating, first Mary Roach book, overall thoughts, and we'll just do that at first, and then we'll go into the other questions that I have.
Okay.
Is it worth the hype, do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely worth the hype. I'm about to eat my own words because in my first live stream with you guys, I said at the Gory Details meeting that I'm very willy-nilly with my 5 out of 5 ratings, and I, as long as I had fun, I'll give it a 5. And I did have so much fun. I love Mary Roach's writing. I thought the jokes were tasteful and still very funny. Her humor is right up my alley. I love so much about this book, and this is totally a me thing, looking at this book that was written 20 plus years ago from 2025 hindsight. So again, this is me. I gave it a 4.5 because of Dr. Oz, and that's just me. Okay? I'm so sorry. I know that I really appreciated the 2021 epilogue as well, with her updates. And she, mentions him again, and I totally get it. But if she had talked to any other doctor, it would have been just a 5, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 for me. It was my first Mary Roach book, and I can't wait to get to I think it's called 6 Feet Over now instead of Spook.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm going to continue to read her. Love it. I struggled to get through the audiobook a little bit because I think it's just because of how old the original book was, and you could tell from, in my opinion, the narration that it's definitely a little dated, but I absolutely loved it. But 4 out of 5 for me.
I was going to read the part in her epilogue about Dr. Oz, because she did say something that I appreciated, where she essentially just said, because I can't find it, even though the epilogue's 6 damn pages. Why can't I find it? Where she said something like, he's changed very much since we first spoke.
Oh yeah, she said, I don't recognize him, or something to that effect. I'm on it, but I don't want to take up all of our time with trying to find that one little sentence. But yeah, she does mention it in the epilogue.
I will keep looking for it because I do want to read it. Go ahead. Kim, what did you think? First Mary Roach, thoughts, feels?
She's 5 out of 5 for me. I've read Stiff was definitely my first read from her, and I love that she's able to bring this dark subjects, taboo subjects to this light. And sometimes as I'm reading through it, I'm like, I don't know if I should giggle at this or not, the way she kind of writes and makes those jokes. And then I love all the footnotes that she has in the book. It's almost like she's kind of breaking that wall and having that hey, here's where this came from, or little sidebar. And those are my favorite, actually, is all her little footnotes. But Spook was the other one I read. That was another one that was absolutely, I love that one too. Just her writing is just very consistent. So if you liked Stiff, you're going to like the rest of her writing. So I'm going to actually read the rest of her books, but she's always a 5 out of 5. I've enjoyed her, and I recommend her book to everybody just because it's so much fun. And I've reread it when it first came out, reread it this time, and I enjoy it every time.
I love that. Also, that was one of the biggest complaints in the local chapters was the footnotes weren't read in the audiobook. So
Yeah.
people were definitely upset with that. Is the update epilogue published online or anything? I have the old publication. I'm not entirely sure, but it is very short. If you were, unable to purchase it or, find it at a library somewhere, because I know it gets checked out all the time, just run to a bookstore and grab it. Or just read it really quick while you're in there because it is pretty short. Yes, I would love to have coffee with both of them. I'll throw Caitlin Dowdy in the mix too, because I think that is like the holy trinity of morbid.
Let's go.
Yes.
Holy trinity of morbid nonfiction. We've got Mary Roach, Caitlin Dowdy, and Erica Engelhaupt. Love that. So I finally found it. It's on page 299. As you are likely aware, Mehmet? How do you say his first name?
Mehmet.
Dr. Oz left the operating room for the television studio. I met him on the set of his show during my Gulp book tour and found it hard to recognize the witty, skeptical heart transplanter I met in 2001. While we chatted, a billboard-sized video screen behind us displayed an animation of a gigantic, realistic turd suddenly lurching along in a colon, which somehow made up for things. I love her so much. Daughter, Mother, and Holy Spirit. Yes. I need to make this a t-shirt or merch. Love that. Yeah, don't forget to read the footnotes. It's so weird that happens sometimes in some of these nonfiction books, because footnotes in fiction I love, but it is very few and far between that they typically do get included. But nonfiction, for some reason, the footnotes are never read in the audiobook, and I don't know why. Anyway, Steph, thoughts, feels, qualms.
I love this book. 5 out of 5, honestly. This was a reread for me, but this was my first Mary Roach, and this was my second audiobook ever that I ever bought. Back in the day when I want to say it was like 2015-ish. I was finishing my first undergrad and I was in an English lit class and I had to read several books, and because they gave me a bunch of free credits to start, I was like, oh, this looks interesting, I'll grab this one. And it was one of the funniest nonfiction books I've ever read. Yep. And so I was like, yes, forever done. And it careened me very far down a rabbit hole that I never left.
Never came up for air.
Yeah, definitely will read. Surprisingly, I haven't read more of her work, but I will be. I just picked up the audiobook of Bonk, so we'll be reading that.
Very interesting. Yeah, I started to read Bonk right after Stiff, and I was like, I just feel like this is a lot of Mary Roach right now. Like, she's great, but I'm like, I need to come up for air. Go read something else.
Yes.
So, love that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Annalise, who I was talking about earlier. I realized I use StreamYard for work, and my tag for work was my name, so I just changed that. Thank you so much, Annalise. Love you. Annie, thoughts and feels, qualms. Feels, qualms.
Okay, this one was also a reread for me. I read it. But let's put it this way: I bought this book originally as an ebook when Nook was more popular than Kindle. That was a long.
Wow.
If anyone even knows what Nook is, that's like Barnes and Noble's version of Kindle. This one is definitely like 7 out of 5. There you go. Give you a crazy rating. Crazy rating. This was my first Mary Roach. I have no idea how I found this book originally. That tells you everything how I also found this book club, because if I found that book randomly with no help from an outsider, no recommendation. But yeah, I tell people like so often since I read this years and years ago, I still tell people about it and I tell them the entire title. Because this is the book that made me figure out what I wanted to do with my body when I died. Yeah. And I've not strayed from that decision since I read this book. So love this book, and rereading it, I was like, yep, still like wasn't any less, still love it. And it's funny to me, the chapters that like really stuck with me as opposed to some of the other ones. Like I for sure remember the body farm and the crash test cadavers and like trying to reanimate heads, but like some of the other ones not as much. But I'm like, okay, they're very random ones that I did remember, but love it. I haven't actually read any of her others since. I started Grunt, but I think I had to like return it to the library or something. But I have like Packing for Mars and Gulp, and I just need to read them because love her book.
Same. I love hearing the comments that this definitely helped people decide what they wanted to do. I heard that a couple times at my chapter meetings, which is great, where they're like, never really thought of it beforehand. And I'm like, oh, I love that this helped you decide. I always think back to, I mentioned this in my Mooresville chapter, I always think back to, there was an episode of the recently released Unsolved Mysteries where a woman had died and she was, her case is unsolved, but because of the way that things were laid out in, I guess, her will or whatever happened legally, she wound up being cremated and she wound up in the hands of an abusive ex-husband who just like put her in a closet. And I had thought about, stuff like this, what happens after you die? What do you want done with your body? But definitely seeing that episode and reading books like this definitely helped me figure out you got to have a plan so you don't end up in some asshole's closet. And yes, shout out to Everything is Tuberculosis. For sure. And also I did too, when I was a kid, I went to the body exhibit. It was in Charlotte, I guess. I was a while ago and I was so young that they didn't let me see certain parts of things, which is weird. It's like when I say see certain parts, I meant like the aquamation. Yeah. She was cremated. He didn't just like stand her up and nothing like that, but he was the dick and he got custody of her post-mortem, which is crazy. They didn't let me see when I was a kid. It was in my Girl Scout troop. They did not let me see the birthing section of the body works or body world or whatever it was called, which is crazy because presumably I would be doing it. So, but I think it would have freaked me out even more because I don't have children. But yeah, I think it was in Charlotte. Aquamation was a great discussion. Yes. Love how people are deciding to do this as well. So that actually, brings me to my next question, which somebody also asked over on Instagram, if I could find it. I do think it was Honey Wine again. I appreciate your questions, but you did say, let's see if I could find it. It blends all of your comments together with people who joined the live. Honey Wine said, where do each of you draw the line with donating your body to science? So that was going to be my next question. Would you donate your body to science? With or without question? Would you want you or a loved one to be shot out of a cannon? And that's mostly as a joke because that was referenced a couple times. And there's something we will get into that as well. There was an article that was recently released. I got you, Jen. No worries. But how do you feel about that donation? And do you need like an asterisk? Like, hey, if you donate your body, you may or may not be used as such and such and such. Or would you just say, I'm just meat at that point? Tam, take us away. Thoughts and feels.
I'm not exactly sure what I want to happen to my body. I think I would donate it to science, maybe. I think that there's a lot to be learned, either from, by medical students or, in the case of like, the crash test cadavers, there could be a lot of good that comes from it. I think it's really interesting, and I want to just note that I believe Mary Roach mentioned that it's possible to say like what you don't want it to be used for, although you can't choose what you want your body to be used for in the realm of donating it to science.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know, man.
That's fine.
What I want to happen. I would, I think with an asterisk is where I'm going to leave my thoughts on this question for now.
I'm going to bump up your mic just a little bit. Let me know how everybody sounds in the comments. I think you're just a little quiet on my end, but I also had you turned way down from last time, so maybe that was me.
I never have that problem usually, so you probably turned me down on purpose.
I love the comments. Thanks, guys, for letting me know. But do let me know how we all sound in the comments if you don't mind, because some people, it sounds fine to me on my end, but I've noticed that for you guys, it sounds a little different. No clue on the body. Yes. Are you an organ donor? Tam?
I am, yeah. Yes, I am an organ donor.
I was telling my Charlotte group that every time I think about organ donors, I think of Superbad, which I think I'm alone in that. But when they have McLovin's ID and they're like looking at it and he thinks he's caught and he's like, "You're an organ donor," I think about that all the time.
I like Jen's comment, being torn between wanting to donate, but you've also watched too much Supernatural.
I saw a TikTok about that today, or I saw a reel somewhere. I think I shared it on our story, the Morbidly Curious Pages story, where she said, "When I die, scatter me by the river, but do not cremate me," or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like I'm unsure about just leaving it around. Like, I don't want to leave that door open.
Oh my god. God, this is good. I would donate my body to science, but the women in my family live too darn long to be useful. Funny. Kim? Canon? No canon? Are you an organ donor?
Maybe space, but not canon. No, I am an organ donor, but like kind of deep diving into this because of the book, I'm finding that I would not qualify for most medical donations. And so I actually was looking at UC San Francisco for their brain bank, because she had mentioned it in there, and I had posted the link in, I think, in the Stiff chat about how you can do that. So I'm like, my brain, good, rest of me, trash. So I will be disposing of. I plan on doing the terramation. So like, I don't qualify. I'm finding. So that's the big thing. I would love to donate.
I don't think I qualify either,
but I don't qualify.
Are you missing any? You're missing organs, Patches. You don't qualify.
2 organs.
Yeah. That's
you
like one of
all
them.
your
Oh
organs.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm missing 2 organs. I'm going for 3. No, I'm just kidding. I'm missing 2 organs at the moment. At the time of this call, I'm missing 2. So, both, one on purpose, one tried to rupture on me. So I didn't have a choice. It was either death or surgery. Okay, interesting. Steph, do you want to tell us how you feel on this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually made this annotation, so I'm just going to read it to you.
Please.
From the footnote that says, "I'm a believer in organ and tissue donation, but was startled to learn that donated skin that isn't used for, say, grafting onto burn victims may be processed and used cosmetically." I literally wrote, if my skin was used for some fragile man's ego dick, I would haunt his ass. So no cosmetic donations for me. If I qualified, I totally would donate my body to science. I don't qualify because I don't have all of my organs either.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I need to pay more attention.
Tam, don't worry, I got you. I have a qualifications list.
Oh, wonderful.
So this happened to me once as a baby social worker in hospice. I was literally a student during my internship, and a gentleman was like, "My last wish is that I want to donate my body to science." And his wife was like, "I've been trying so hard to get this done." And so I learned a lot about the rules of body donation. However, I will say my brain is 100% going to, what is this place called? The Concussion Legacy Foundation. So this is kind of like a big personal aside, but I've had several concussions from sports. I used to be a really competitive athlete, and so concussions ended my career in sports. And I have always decided, since all of the stuff started coming out about CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, that I would donate my brain to a brain bank and allow them to do research on post-concussion syndrome and the lasting effects of multiple concussions consecutively. So that is where my brain will be going. I am also an organ donor, so the rest of my somewhat working organs, I actually don't know if they would qualify because I have a lot of autoimmune diseases now. So we'll see.
Yeah, somebody at the somebody at the Morsel Book Club was drinking, and they were like, "You don't want my liver, I'll tell you that." And it was so funny.
I think I'm gonna go opposite of what Kimberly said and say that they probably don't want my brain. That's probably trash. But the rest of me, maybe, because I think I have all my organs. So I don't know.
Okay.
That you know of.
You would know
I
if you
would
did.
know of.
You would hope.
That too, Cam. Yeah, you don't want these eyeballs either. Can't see shit.
They can fix that.
You are not. No lasers, no shit are coming near my
They
eye.
can fix that without lasers.
My eyeballs?
Yes, your eyeballs. My eyeballs are fixed without lasers.
What?
It's called corneal refractive therapy.
Yeah,
You
that
wear
sounds-
these hard contact lenses, you sleep in them, and they change the shape of your eyeball to fix your vision.
What?
It's exactly the same amount of correction as laser, just no surgery.
Thank you, Hannah.
Whoa.
Oh
Thank you.
boy.
I've watched too many of these movies to do any of that. You'd be good for mummification. Both Jen and Candace said, "You think?" And I don't know what did we say that would warrant you think? What did we say?
Oh, I
That
said
you
I
have all
my
your organs.
Oh, yeah.
Think?
Same, Cam. I like my glasses. I think I like having those. Missing all. Okay, thank you, everybody. Everybody, let me know. Say I'm having all of my organs. Annie, is that all, Steph? Are you done?
Yeah, we're
I
good.
didn't want to cut you off. Okay, go ahead, Annie.
Okay. I also think I have all of my organs. I'm like, this is like those memes.
We're not sure. We're just out here not sure.
It's like that
guessing.
PSA line meme where they're like, wait, did I pack a gun that I forgot about? And now you guys have me questioning, like,
Yeah.
more
The
than I-
cops are
That's
behind me and
also me. I
suddenly
just
I'm
want you to
falling.
know. Like
So I am an organ donor. So I don't really know exactly how it works because I'm like, what do they do? Like, all right, let's strip her of her immediately usable organs. But then I would like the rest of me, whatever's available, to go to be donated to science. After reading this book, I was like, I don't even know if I really ever thought about donating your body to science. I think I for sure didn't know that they used like real bodies for crash tests and like the extent of what your body could be used for. But after reading this book, I was like, oh, heck yes, donate my body to science 100%. With an asterisk that I was like, do I really want to be used for cosmetic surgery? Not so much. Like, put me in the body farm. I actually I have not looked up. I saw everyone talking in the Discord about like disqualifications and stuff. So I don't know if I qualify or if you can qualify once they remove your organs for different things, whatever. But I did look up how to transport your body to the body farm in Tennessee. And I told my parents, I was like, guys, they will pick me up if I live close enough. Otherwise, you're going to have to drop me off. My parents were like, Annie, stop.
Weekend at Annie's with it. Just drive her over.
I was like, you can just drop me off. It's fine. These little cat ears down here. But yeah, no, this book definitely, I was just like, oh my God, you can do all this cool stuff with my body after science. I tell my parents all the time, I'm like, well, I would like to be done with science. I don't really have anywhere good for you to throw my cremated ashes. So we'll just go to donate me to science. I tell them this whole hierarchy of what they can do with my body. So it would be donate my organs to anyone to keep them alive, donate to science. And then I was like, after that, I guess I'm gonna have to come up with somewhere good to scatter my ashes. I'll get back to you on that. But like for me, I don't know for some people if it's like I think they mentioned it in the book. Well, they definitely mentioned it in the part about dissecting people. But like how religion can play a role for people. Like I'm not religious, so for me, I'm just like, dude, use my body. That'd be great. I would love to be useful after I die. Do something cool in science with me. So that has not wavered at all since I read this book years and years and years ago. I will just tell everyone about it all the time. And yeah, I would love to help like the FBI study me to learn about how I decay outside when somebody's like shot me or something. Like life goals. I mean, death goals. Yeah, death goals.
Death goals.
I'm
sorry, we did get a comment. Don't let me forget. I've already forgotten. Oh, love the color scheme. It's this meeting is the same as the book cover. Thank you. I worked very hard on that. The green and the blue. Also, Mike, there was I think a Michael in the comments that said Team Body Farm. You're gonna see that on a T-shirt at some point. I'm making
Oh,
that.
yes, I would definitely 100% buy that.
I would buy that.
Immediately.
I love this. Also, we mentioned the Discord. Thank you for mentioning that. We do have a Discord. Also, Charlotte, that's going to end up on a T-shirt at some point.
I was gonna say that, Annie. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at Charlotte's comment.
Yes, I was laughing at the
that's
comment.
highlighted. So
Drop me off like some junk for Goodwill.
yes.
To me, it's hilarious. Love. Mention the Discord Team Body Farm sticker. We'll get Annalise. We'll get that. Annalise. We'll hit up Annalise for one of those. Maybe bumper sticker. Discord. So if you join the Morbidly Curious Book Club, if you go to our website and click Join the Book Club, and you go to our messages tab, we use a website called bookclubs.com. Use the messages tab. Pinned message has our Discord link. I don't share it. I make sure people are joining the book club before they just join the Discord. So that's why I don't just share that around. So that's the way to find that. Steph, didn't mean to cut you off, but somebody did ask for the qualifications list. Do you have that?
I do. I have the qualifications list.
I'm
So
gonna crush my
please,
hopes and dreams now.
yeah, I really am though, because it's a lot. I will very much first of all say, if for any reason you end up in a healthcare facility and you are told you're dying, tell your healthcare staff that you want to be. It's fairly similar for both, Nora, actually.
Okay, thank you for saying that, Nora.
Just a side note, the qualifications are similar for both. But I am using the University of Toronto's body donation qualifications list.
Okay.
Is the list I'm using. So it is a Canadian list. But as I was saying, tell your healthcare staff that you want to donate your body, because you will be ineligible if you have any kind of skin breakdown. So if you have a pressure sore, you can't, because you now have an open wound. So you cannot donate. This was the issue I ran into as a baby social worker in a hospice, was this gentleman wanted to donate his body, but he had a bed sore and no one would take him because he had an open wound. So similar to that, there are several requirements. First of all, you need to have all your organs, except if you donate your corneas. You're allowed to donate your corneas and still be eligible. You also can't have undergone an autopsy.
Wait.
There are size requirements.
Well, you mentioned that in the book, the autopsy thing.
Yeah, you can't have had an autopsy because they take everything out and they put it back in. So I assume that there might be some issues with that.
I'm with you now.
There's a size requirement. So sorry, if you are over 6 feet tall or more than 200 pounds, you are not eligible to donate your body to science.
But wasn't that body in the Tennessee Body Farm in the book 6 something? How did he escape and get into the body?
Escape?
He snuck in. What?
I feel like the body farm might be different than anatomy.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is also saying your body must not have any physical deformities. You must not be burned or have sustained any major accidents. You must not be jaundiced. And you also must be free of a very long list of contagious illnesses, such as hepatitis A, B, C, HIV, sepsis, septic shock, MRSA, SARS, C. diff, COVID, etc. So basically, just suddenly drop dead, but not of an aneurysm.
But is this just to be a cadaver for is this specifically for medical students? Because you said this might be different than going to the body farm. Do you know?
This is through the province of Quebec. So this is the criteria from the French, and it's just the government website. So I'm not sure if this is specific to that, but I feel so the thing that I found out when I was trying to help this gentleman find a place for his body to go with this open wound was that the highest level of restriction is on corpses that are used for anatomy. But funeral homes and mortuary schools will take more what they call quote unquote realistic body donations, so that they're teaching people how to prepare a body for a viewing in a way that is more realistic of what they're going to see in real life. So they'll take people with wounds, they'll take people with limb differences, they'll take people with burns and other things, probably with some missing organs, because you know how many of us really do get through life without losing a couple of them.
They just fall out sometimes. Yeah.
But yeah, about what
Right.
Cam just said. Is it like active contagious diseases, or is it like if you've ever had one of those? Like
I
if
was
you've
curious
had
about that.
COVID ever, are you eliminated?
No, it's if you die of COVID.
Okay.
Oh,
At
Who
least
hasn't
for
gotten
COVID.
COVID at this point?
right.
What about long COVID? Never mind. That's a tangent.
Yeah, that's yeah. But for some
So-
of the things like C. diff and like MRSA, it would be like if you have that at all, you would probably be disqualified because you can't really get rid of those things, and they are highly contagious. So you'd be putting the people working on you at risk.
Right. So we did get a question.
Sorry.
Honeywine said, so any sort of violent death is out, it seems like.
Yeah, the body farms want to inflict their own violence on you.
Yes.
Well, okay, so then the next question somebody asked on Instagram, so how is this going to benefit science if you are perfect?
Yeah.
Great
Ooh,
question.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
agree.
that is, I mean,
Yeah.
are they supposed to just see, I guess again, it depends. Where's the body going, right? We're going body farm to learn to have forensic students learn about natural element type stuff. Are we going to the body exhibit with that tours around? You know, I guess it just depends on where you're going, because some people, I guess if you are going to be on display with all your limbs and nerve endings and muscles, they do need to be perfect. But how would we learn? I guess do they accept students, or do students accept bodies that have been through violent deaths to see what it does to the body? Like, is that a thing? Or I'm you know, I'm asking a question.
But it also sounds like stuff what kind of like you guys or several of you guys are talking about, like donating your brain, which I'm on board. I'll do that. Wasn't that in the book about the lie detector test? Anyway, sorry.
Or All That Is Wicked. All That Is Wicked. They were talking about the
yes,
his brain.
I was like, it's one of the earlier this year books, All That Is Wicked, where they had his brain. But so I guess it sounds like at least if you are not qualified to donate your whole body, you could still donate like piecemeal off your body, like
a la carte.
half my organ. There's still hope that I can do both.
I'd like to be filleted if you can, because I spent a lot of money on these tattoos, and I think they could be
Maybe
nice
they
in
can
somebody's
make a book
Actually-
on arms.
Actually,
Do that.
So
you can
what?
save your skin that has been tattooed if you want to. You
What?
can save like
Oh,
pieces.
yeah. It's expensive, but you can do it.
Your chest piece is super cool.
How
too.
do they give it to you?
Gotta get mine finished.
What do you?
I don't know.
I didn't flash everybody. I swear to God, I didn't do that. It was the tattoo and just in the middle of it.
Whoa, weird. We just
Sorry.
got a bunch of donations. I'm just kidding.
More
Just
Patreon
kidding.
moolah.
Thanks, Sam. If someone had chemo, then would they be disqualified? Yeah. How do you study effects of cancer, radiation on the body? Yeah, so many questions. Mary.
People are not going to love the answer to that one
Oh no.
because the answer is animals.
Oh.
Yeah, somebody did say in the chat here that they lowered their rating because they were not anticipating as much about animals and how that would be brought up, which yes, I do apologize. I do not personally post the trigger warnings for our book club books because, as you know, there's a laundry list, and I recommend that people search those themselves because I fear if I do list them, I might miss one, and I don't want to do that. So
Storygraph is great for checking
Yes.
trigger warnings for books.
Yes.
I always recommend Storygraph. Kim, did you want to add anything that we were yapping about here about body donation?
So when I was in school and we were doing the gross anatomy, the body that we had, apparently it's hard to procure bodies for some anatomy students, and the one we had was well beyond its expiration.
I love
Like-
how kindly you put that.
I know I'm trying, because we want to be kind, but it was like
Right. No, it's great.
they have an expiration on them. You're supposed to dispose of them after a certain period of time, but they were probably 15 to 20 years beyond that. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's
and they would, it's wild. Yeah. I'm not going to say what school, but like,
I thought you were about to
it
say
was just to
hours.
study anatomy to take the peek, and like look at how that is. But they said that it's expensive for the school. It's, we're not, it just seems like it wouldn't matter if we're just taking a peek, but no, it's like a whole thing. They
It's
just
expensive for
don't
the
have.
school, but this is what we're studying. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
This should be in our budget. Like, we
I
should
know,
be
you would
grave
think.
robbing.
Yeah, and I haven't looked recently, but like as of like 15 years ago, they were still using the same study. So I don't know why.
That was a topic that got brought up in the Discord, I know, and I think it was brought up previously. I'm sure we talked about it, but like the Anatomy Act of 18, whatever it was fascinating to me because, of course, medical students needed bodies, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in Butchering Art coming up in July.
Mm-hmm.
This is why grave robbing was so popular, I guess, because they needed bodies, and the Anatomy Act. Well, because also at the fulcrum of this whole situation was Christianity doesn't believe that if you are chopped up into tiny pieces, even in the name of science, that you won't go into heaven because you are not whole, right? So there's a lot of people who feel certain ways about certain things. But actually, Kimberly, quick segue, thoughts on, we were talking about viewings. Can we go ahead and talk about embalming really quick and our thoughts and feels on that?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the beginning, I was for it, but now I am actually not for embalming.
Really?
Yeah, I'm more into the environmental aspect of cremation and embalming as why I'm like, it is an older practice and a lot of, it's a lot of carbon emissions and going green. I'm feeling for this kind of thing is important. Embalming also has a large environmental impacts people don't think about, chemicals seeping into water. If the cemetery is near a main water source, to be morbid, caskets aren't waterproof. And so it's like, there's those things there's been cases where, the water tasted funny. And they had to go and investigate because it was leaking into their water source. So now we're looking into different things about terramation. We finally are able to do human composting here in California starting in 2027. I'm all woo with the AB 351 bill that passed. So that's super exciting to see that because composting, and this is again where we're talking about qualifications on things. There is weight restrictions that are going to be on that. We're hoping to expand on those only because of the containers currently used for human compost. Now I think you have to be under 300 pounds to be composted. And then the nice thing is they're trying to find green spaces that need terraforming, trees, wildflowers, things, and that's where they'll be putting the communal compost if you don't want to take that with you, or some of it. And so it does produce a lot of compost. We're talking a truck bed full of compost you'd either have to all pick up or you get, an urn or something that you can bury or spread, make trees, whatever. So it's kind of an interesting process to start that human composting. So I'm hoping that gets more popular. And that we kind of move away from older practices.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Tori. I was making faces because I get where you're coming from and I totally understand, but I definitely didn't expect fat phobia in the death industry as well, because there's so much of that in for living people too. So that sucks.
It does. And I'm hoping they will expand on that. And I don't understand. Yeah. And it's just it's because it's newer and it is becoming more popular. I'm hoping that they do get rid of that requirement. I've looked into some of those current funeral homes and if you look at the size of the vessels and how they have to lay out the seating and the stuff they need, it's unfortunately a space issue, but I'm hoping in time, again, as a larger person, I want to be composted and hope they can expand on those as well. So it's just,
baby steps are great. We're making progress, but at the same time, they're going in the ground.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I agree. Embalming,
further too, though.
Really.
Go
ahead.
The fat phobia in the death industry goes back to the fat phobia in the actual dying industry too. Like,
Mhm.
Yep.
right to like, we have one bed at my job that is for what we call, and it's called this. Like, I had to look it up. I looked up the manual. It's called a bariatric bed. Because hospital beds are only designed to fit up to a certain weight limit. So then you have to buy a quote unquote higher weight limit bed so that somebody can stay in it if they're over the weight limit. And the reason, like, the beds that we have are, it's hard to get away from because they're so expensive. Like, we just bought brand new beds last year. Each bed was $28,000. They're very special. They're like the air mattress that's on the bed moves the air in a certain way to reduce skin breakdown, so you don't get those pressure sores from when you're laying like in one position all the time, because that's what you're doing when you're dying to a certain point. But it becomes an issue where, like, so all of that is the issue, and then it just continues where we make this thing to the standard size. The standard size has significantly changed, but that practice hasn't kept up. And then into dying, it's like the same thing.
Oh, yes, they did, Leanne. We have not read 5 Days at Memorial for the book club, and I actually had it slotted for 2026, but wound up picking something else. That is, side tangent, one of the most morbid books that I have ever read.
Yeah, that one was rough.
That one was seriously one of the most disturbing books I've ever read. We'll read it eventually, but fuck. I was going to say something and I can't remember. A couple people on Instagram also were saying embalming, they are not for it. I do understand. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I guess I understand that obviously the reason for it, which we read about, what was that, in Over My Dead Body, where we initially talked about embalming. Was it the Civil War? And I think that was when we first talked about it.
Dark Archives went into that too.
I was about to say they blend together, but they also
the grave robbing chapters as well.
Yes, they all start to blend together after a while, but also a lot of them do focus on similar topics. So we're going to run into that. But
yeah,
the idea of it was obviously to preserve the bodies for some time because they were just dying in such high quantities. But I understand how a viewing can be beneficial in grief.
Yeah.
And I do hear you. I do understand that. I do think that it is helpful to certain people, but you hit the nail on the head with how bad it is for the environment. I mean, terrible it is for the environment, terrible for the embalmer themselves, like the person near those chemicals all the freaking time. I mean, that's just gotta be bad. Go ahead, Annie.
I'm also blanking on which book this was that we already read because it couldn't be any other book club. But I remember also, like, embalming is terrible, but also like getting into like cremation is not great for the environment either, which then they got into, like somebody mentioned in the comments, like aquamation. So like I feel like people might, I don't know if people think cremation is better, but like I just remember being like, oh yeah, this is also like not great for the environment. And I don't remember what book that was in, but this is off topic and you can totally ignore me or reroute this question whenever, but I feel like Kimberly probably is the only one who has this experience. But I was just thinking something we talked about right before this embalming question that struck me, like when I was rereading the book, like what do we think about phasing out, and now this could be like old because this is from the book, but phasing out like medical students actually each of like going into dissecting the cadavers and instead doing like I forget what they were doing, like 3D things, or instead of actually getting their hands dirty and like each of them getting their hands on one. Because I mean, I'm not in medicine, but to me, I'm like, I would feel, and maybe it's different with technology, like it's so realistic or something, but to me, it would feel like I would like want to like put my hands on a real person before I would actually do it to a living person. But I shouldn't know if anyone had thoughts on that whole phasing out of every student doing that. And I know that was kind of coming up when we were talking about like reusing cadavers and that kind of thing.
I think sometimes, like, I mean, I know they try to do this, like removing the animal dissections out of classrooms as well and going into 3D models and different things. Medical students are different because they are eventually going to get, I think, that experience. But I think it depends on the year too they're in. If it's beginning, they may not need a whole gross anatomy lab where they can just look at it virtually. And then as they get through their education, they're eventually going to get their hands, I think, on people, and then they go into their internships, externships. And I think that there's maybe a time and place for where you actually get that anatomy. But I think in the interim, like they may not need that first or second year to do that, in my opinion. I mean, like the 3D stuff, if they're just taking the peak. But
that makes sense. I was just like, it seems like off the cut, I was like, all for people touching cadavers before they go work. Yeah. They were discussing how usually it's like, you just watch somebody do it. What is it? Watch the thing, and then you do one, watch one, whatever, help with one, do one. And I was like, yeah, if I was me learning, I just could be me. I like to very like trial error test things out. Like I would feel much better if I got to like, I mean, even if it wasn't like you're saying, that makes sense that you wouldn't need to do it in your first or second year, but I would for sure like to like be able to maybe mess up on a cadaver before I go and like be like, okay, you can practice on this live person today.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you'll see that in practice, but it's like seeing the dead and then the live, it's like, it's completely different. They're not bleeding and they're not, there's different things like, So it's really just looking at anatomy, I guess, at that point too, because they're not going to necessarily practice.
I will also say, surprisingly, I have a relevant thing. So right now we're changing one of our policies at work. And one of the things, so background context, we're not getting into the debate today, but the policy that we're changing is that we are trying to be inclusive in our hospice of assisted death. However, one of the things we've had to write into our policies is that our nursing staff will not actually be directly placing any IVs or anything. And it directly relates to this because it's a skill issue. So I think that the 3D modeling of the gross anatomy lab could be helpful for some areas of medicine, but not all. Because the reason that we're not we're saying that our nursing staff will not be placing the IVs is because our nurses don't place IVs. Literally ever. It's such a rare thing that they would do that they are not kept up on that skill enough for us to be comfortable being like, yes, go place 2 IVs in this person who is probably dehydrated, is probably not eaten in a few days, like all of these things. Like it's actually a really hard IV to place. Go do that and then come back, because they haven't been. And they don't, because it's outside of what we usually do in hospice. And so we've actually had to write it into the policy to say, we won't be doing that. We'll be asking expert nursing staff that are outside in the community. We'll be asking home care to come in and do that for us, because they just don't do it. Like we don't do procedures ever really in hospice of any kind. So I think that there is some benefit still to the physical body in the cadaver lab. Also, at least here, a lot of our, like when people reach out to donate their body to science, they actually get turned down due to a lack of need. So there is like an overflow of the amount of bodies that are being donated versus what's needed for anatomy lab and such. So, I mean, there's that. That's a good problem to have.
I think it goes down to new and old school training too. Like if I go into my doctor's office and I don't see any of the people rooming, like wearing stethoscopes, all the blood pressure is manual, they put the cuff on you. They can't do a manual. I've had them, they go, oh, your blood, like I'm one of those people that never can get a blood pressure machine to work. And they're like, we don't even have a stethoscope to do a manual blood pressure. And I'm like, oh, okay. Or, like they're kind of moving automated. And and I've had new school training with, I came from vet med as well, where, the techs, like you always put your hand on the patient when you're monitoring anesthesia, and the newer techs are trained to just watch monitors And she's like, there's always a delay though. Like if something happens, you should always feel for pulses, you know? So it's like, there's a lot of different, you know, I think they're relying, that is maybe another debate for another time, but more technology than they are your actual touch, like robotics and all that stuff going into medicine too, AI, like all of it's trying to, so yeah.
I will say we have a digital stethoscope that's Bluetooth connected.
Oh wow! Okay.
I convinced them to buy it for a legacy project, which is the other thing that I think is super interesting about this book and about talking about like memorializing people with embalming and such and with viewings is there are so many ways to continue your relationship with someone who's died that have nothing to do with physically looking at their body. And people are getting really, really creative. So one of the things that I convinced my hospice to do is we will use this digital stethoscope to take a recording of someone's heartbeat so that we can put it into a Build-A-Bear. Like we literally partner with Build-A-Bear. They send us, we buy the recorders off of them. And then we have a partnership with a charity that sends us bears and I put them together. So I can take that recording and that's why we have it. But then the nursing staff also uses that stethoscope for literally everything else.
Do you guys, if you mind me asking, are you using death doulas in hospice care?
We are not. However, we would not, if someone came to us who has a death doula that they are privately hiring, we would not stop that person from coming in. But we have a mix of, we have spiritual care providers. We have myself as social work. We have doctors, nurses, PSWs. We have a really large volunteer force as well, which includes direct care, complementary therapy, kitchen, reception, and we also have a therapy dog.
Oh,
So we kind of have this whole team of people that like is all of the extra services that a death doula would be.
That's amazing.
But that is like, we also are a facility, like people, this isn't hospice at home. This is a residential facility that people come in and live the last few months of their life with us. Don't
mind me. I've just been like, I just found out how much it's going to cost for me to aquamate my body. But also I saw a comment that said, I heard the body farm isn't taking bodies currently. So I looked up my alma mater, Western Carolina University, go Cats, because they do have a body farm called The Forest, which reminds me of the video game, which is so fucked up. It is. But also I love this WC Forensic Anthropology image over here, the forest with the hands, the skeleton hands. I love that.
Really cool.
This was like the main goal. For some freaking reason, when I went to Western, I did not study forensics, but I could always go back. It is a dream of mine. We'll see. I will go back to Western tomorrow if I could, but I love the program. It doesn't say anything here about them not accepting, but they do have a donation of cremated remains, which is interesting. I don't really know.
What's that body donation checklist?
Yeah, there you go.
So that's why I was looking at that. Share this tab instead. So enclosed, you'll find several forms. There's one page. So I'm really confused.
Must have been translated by Deborah. Oh, sorry.
Oh my God. Annie. Please. This is so funny. I don't.
There was I forget if it actually happened. I think it did at USF in Tampa. I remember they were like debating trying to have a body farm, but then of course the neighbors were like, "Excuse me, what? You're gonna put what near my house? Is it gonna smell?" I do think I have to check up on it. I do think eventually they were allowed to do it, but it was like temporary. I'm like, what do you mean temporary? Just temporarily set it up and now it's gone away again. I don't know, but I was very excited for USF when they got one. I obviously am just all about the body farms, but
for content. For context, we read a translated work for the
Yes, I'm
Morbidly
sorry, I
Curious.
forgot that was from fiction.
No, that was for the Morbidly Curious Fiction edition, and Deborah, a woman named
Oh.
Deborah Smith, is the one who translated the book, and we were talking in length about her in our discussion. So that's why Deborah's catching strays. Poor Deborah. That was
I get
a
it now.
long
Not to be
Yeah.
confused with the Deborah in here who's doing the crash test dummies.
Yes, so let's talk about that for a second. I
Yeah.
know, I think, was it Tam or Gigi? Both, and I know Steph did want to talk about them a little bit, but let's talk about, is it mean to call them crash test dummies if they're human? Do we call them crash test
Subject.
bodies? Let's
Crash
talk
test
about
cadavers.
test
Cadavers, yeah.
Jesus.
UM006.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
dive into that. Thoughts and feels.
So many thoughts and feels. But my biggest question was, so I learned this off TikTok, I will be honest, but then I did do extra research. I learned on TikTok that crash test dummies are all male. And all of the seatbelt and airbag testing that's done on specifically crash test dummies, I'm not sure about cadavers, and this was the question I had, is done on male shaped crash test dummies, which is why women tend to get hurt more often and more severely in crashes where seatbelts are used and where airbags deploy, because of where they hit your body, because they don't tell you have to adjust where your steering wheel sits as a woman, or you will literally get an airbag to the throat and break, all that sensitive stuff there, and then you won't breathe anymore. And then it literally says UM006 was a big meaty man, still is. And I'm like, do they only use male cadavers for these crash test cadavers, or are we using women as
I thought
well?
she mentioned that
But
something
they
about
mentioned like trying
the
to do
disparity.
not use children, but replicate children. So hopefully they're considering women. Yeah, right.
Yes.
I would love to expand on this a lot, but due to my job, I can't. But you do see a lot of medical research is done only on males. They don't count for a lot of female. And it's wild because, like you said, this is just one of the things we don't think about. And it's like, it goes, there's a lot. Like it's an afterthought, unfortunately.
I love how there's always one in the live shows that's like, due to my job, I can't explain more. And I'm always like,
Right.
Yeah, Lauren, yeah, oh my God, this is crazy. And also, it wasn't just cars, right? What else is, well, there's a book, I haven't read it yet, but it's called Invisible Women, I'm pretty sure, about
I
how
just got that.
and women have been, I have it, I do own it. Can I spell? Christ. I wish I could show. Susan Storm came up when I.
Is it this
I just
data? No. It's not this data bias book, is it?
This is what I got.
Yeah.
And this is not what I meant at all.
I will say, I'm seeing it in the comments. Get yourself one of these. This is the seatbelt adjuster, friends. Buy yourself.
Oh.
They're on Amazon. They clip into both the lap part and the shoulder part of your seatbelt, so you can adjust where it sits across you. They're cheap. Buy this.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's called Invisible Women: Data Biases in a World Designed for Men. So it goes into that. Excuse me. Also, I did finally find, not to go off topic again, but I did fudge. Wrong one. Share this tab instead. The informed consent for willed body use in research, education, training, and outreach at Western Carolina University's forensic program. What's interesting is this goes into everything that they use your body for, which I appreciate. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's why it's called Forest.
Is it an acronym?
The Forensic Osteology Research Station.
It is an acronym.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
But in the forest, I love this. Donor remains are primarily used for research through the routine collection of data to include daily photographs to document the rate of decomposition. Additionally, within this context, donors provide education and training experiences in the process of and factors that affect human decomposition. This includes how various scavengers may interact with the remains. Oh, good. You see like a raccoon just like going at my feet. But the very last thing, too, I love this. Under no circumstances are remains ever sold or permanently removed from Western Carolina.
Well, that's nice.
And that is
That's
just
good.
Western. So it's not to say all programs are like that, but they do tell you everything that they're going to use you for.
Well, yeah, in the book,
I think they have to.
you might donate yourself to a university and then they might ship you somewhere else. Like that's what I forgot to bring up earlier. Like in the book, they were talking about how, which I remember from the first time reading it, how like you don't necessarily know what it's going to be used for. We kind of talked about that. Like you can say like, don't do this, but then otherwise you don't know. And I know in the book they talked about donating yourself to a specific university does not mean you're going to end up at that university, I guess, unless something like that is in the agreement.
Yeah.
Well, I
Also
think the
agree, Jen.
agreements also have to do with REB, which is the board of ethics that has to do with research, and you have to have everything that you're going to do approved by them if you're doing research with people. And medical research is really, really strict. Like I just interview people for my research that I do, and legit the amount of times that ethics like, actually, I don't think that you can do that is a lot. Like a lot.
I believe that.
Right. There is a reading group guide in the back of actually both editions of this book, which I do appreciate and noticed way too late. In this book. But I do love, so one of the questions that we already hit on, number 4 in the back here, says modern embalming methods have allowed us to present odorless, good-looking corpses at funerals. Has modern mortuary science made death more aesthetically pleasing? I know we hit on that, but I do like the phrasing of that question. And also they go into, on number 6, they go into the dignity of the deceased, which I think is a huge thing here as well, because there are some people who are like, no, I'm dead, who cares? And there are some people who are like, no, that's a person, So I do want to hit on number 5, because I know some people in the Discord also talked about the Flight 800. Dennis Shanahan, who investigated the grisly human wreckage of downed TWA Flight 800, told Roach that the hardest thing about examining the flight was that most of the bodies were relatively whole. He said, intactness bothers me more than the lack of it, which was page 116. Why might he feel this way? Do you agree or disagree? So let's dive into that chapter, which was about the flight. Thought feels, I think, what did I say, 116? Yeah. Put yourself in that frame of mind and get on with your job. It's gory, but sad. Gore you get used to. Shattered lives you don't. I think I had that. I'm reading my, also shout out to my Loch Ness Monster bookmark. I had that annotated in this edition. Yeah. This is a plane that's traveling at 300 miles per hour. When it breaks up, it loses aerodynamic compatibility. The engines are still providing thrust, but now the plane's not stable. Ugh. Any thoughts or feelings on that chapter in particular? We can get into some of the other chapters as well, briefly.
It didn't help my fear of flying, that's for sure.
I've been
There was something in chapter 2, I think, that I think of when I think about this question, and it's about the way that you separate the fact that that's a person from a body.
Yeah.
And I feel like the intactness of it, like they still have, they might still have a face, they still have hands. It's easier to see that as a person who had a whole life and has people who are clearly left behind by their death than it is to when you just see, like a disembodied arm. You're like, okay, well, it's an arm.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's that disassociation of the two things. Like frozen in death, if you will, if they're unanimated, but you could have seen them yesterday, like separating that thing. Like you said, it's not common to see a person in pieces. So it's like you won't have that same connection. And so it's like as you see a whole body, you're going to want to know more about it just out of curiosity, maybe, and make those stories in your head too. So it's like finding a body would be hard if you're not used to what that looks like. A lot of people haven't seen that too. As an investigator, he's probably more used to it too.
And that's a good point. Was it Mary Roach in this book? Again, they're blending together. Is it in this book that she was talking about how they were like mannequins, like mask mannequins almost, and that kind of helped as well? Is that in this one?
Yeah, I think she mentioned something like that.
They cover the faces of the bodies they work on to kind of disassociate. Yeah,
that too. Nora mentioned a book, but there's also another one. Let me know if you've read this one, Nora, called Bracing for Impact: True Tales of Air Disasters and the People Who Survived them. That sounds interesting. Tell me if you've read that one. Nora is our disaster expert, so I always go to her for those suggestions. Yeah, I will take all the crash-related recommendations. Anybody else have a fear of flying?
I was reading the crash test chapter, and I was like, damn, I'm glad I'm not flying anytime soon. I have flown. I flew internationally for the first time in holiday 2023 season, and like it was crazy. So yeah, and I think that like intactness like bothers him less than like whole bodies, is because like if there's like an explosion or something, that's going to be very obvious, you know, like with like injury patterns and, you know, like damage to the plane, all that. But like intactness, like that's more eerie, I would think. And I didn't mean to cut Kimberly off there. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you didn't. You didn't.
Yeah, I'm not too scared of them. I don't love the idea of it. Like, I'm not itching to go hop on a flight. But my first flight I ever took was in college, and I was going from Asheville to Vegas, and I was super nervous about getting on the flight because I'd never done it before. And a guy that I worked with at the time at Western was like, well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, if it goes down, you'll just die.
No, it doesn't make me feel better.
For some reason it did, though, because there was a sense of like, because that's my big thing, right? Loss of control, right? I have no control of the situation. What am I supposed to do? So it almost helped in a sense of like, I mean, what are you gonna do? What can you do? What can you possibly do? You know, so yeah. I mean, so much better.
I'm more afraid of like the whole life-saving fact. I learned this fact recently. And I'm more afraid of like when the accident happens, what happens if I don't die and someone needs to try to save my life? Jess MM in the comments from YouTube also said CPR training. This is a fact I learned CPR training recently. If you are a woman or a female, genetically you're female, especially if you present female and you have boobs, you are way, way, way less likely to have someone attempt CPR on you if you need it after an accident of any kind. The percentage is that 14% of all people will receive CPR. If you are a woman, 6% of people will try CPR on you. And the reason they say that they won't is because they're afraid of being accused of something.
I fucking knew it. God damn.
Yeah, I was like, what? And then it's the same issue of male crash test dummies. All the training bodies that you use are male bodies usually. So then your effectiveness in doing CPR on a female person also decreases.
That's how I feel, Nora. That's how I feel. Like, just fucking do
it. Is that the next t-shirt we need to do?
Like,
so I feel like this is, and Ness is also right. The Canadians are also doing this, and there is now the ability, you can buy a chest plate attachment for the male CPR dummies that does have some tits, so that you can do CPR on both a female body and a male body. Because the number one thing about doing CPR as a civilian, if you are CPR trained, is that most people don't do CPR well.
See, that was my
a lot of people do it ineffectively, and so a lot of people die, even though they've had CPR.
So that was my thing. I actually didn't think that they would be accused of such things, even though that does make sense. My thing was that they wouldn't do it correctly because
It's
they are
both.
not properly trained to CPR with tatas.
It's both. Yeah.
That is making me want to
Wild.
learn how to do CPR. Not
If
even
you're
gonna
going to
lie.
learn to do CPR and you want to learn effective CPR, find, I'm sure they have it in America too, find a place that does basic life-saving CPR. It's the CPR that's kind of on steroids. Usually it's a CPR that's given to first responders or to healthcare staff.
Oh, okay.
And specifically, it's about doing effective CPR for a consistent amount of time. I say this as someone who has had to do CPR on a real human being for 17 minutes. Please learn how to do it.
That's a long time.
It's
That is a long time.
exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Exhausting.
But that's what happens when you go down on the 12th hole of a golf course and they have to figure out how to get the ambulance back to you because you're in the back of the golf course, not near the road. He did live though.
Yay.
Yay.
That's just making me think, and I'm just being a bad attorney over here because I don't remember Good Samaritan law. And like, I wonder if sometimes people are afraid. I'm sure it's 100% because you have boobs, but like, if part of it, I feel like I don't actually know if people know about that law enough to say that's an excuse, but like, if you try to help somebody and you F it up, like, what liability is on you then? I have to I haven't looked at that since maybe law school, but that just popped into my head with that discussion of like when you go to intervene to try to help someone and you maybe do more harm than good, like what ends up happening to you. But I'm sure that's
exactly
100% not the main thought going through people's minds.
Yeah.
And honestly though, that law, I feel like not enough people know about that law, and it was updated in it was updated in 2018 to also include the administration of naloxone to someone who's overdosing. So if you intervene and you give someone naloxone, you can't be charged in any way. Like it was expanded. So like, let's say like two people, they're using together, somebody ODs, they give Narcan, etc. 100%. I'll do it. Basically it was to include, like, let's say there's an amnesty, like their amnesty is covered if they're carrying illegal drugs as well now. So, but not a lot of people know that they are protected if they do intervene.
Okay. I'm curious to look that up for California. I didn't know that. That's an interesting thing to be like, you're not responsible. You tried, like you tried.
I wasn't afraid of flying till all this understaffing of the FAA, and I'm going to California for the first time from Florida in August. So yay, if anyone's in San Francisco, let me know before I go. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I've never really thought about it because I'm also a control freak, but I will like let it go because it's so largely out of your control. There's not even like kind of a little bit you can do about it, but yeah, I just try to ignore all the facts about the understaffing and all the things that are going on, and we'll be fine.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot happening. Like all these tornadoes without warnings.
Oh, yeah.
Topic. That's a rant for another time. Thoughts on the Holy Cadaver chapter? Because that one to me is something that I don't think I will ever forget. It's
just like, man, of course a religious person is gonna try to do that. But I'm biased, so sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, that's all I was gonna say.
Page 161, you're working your way through this chapter. They talk about using live volunteers, hundreds in all. For his first study, he recruited just shy of 100 volunteers from a local religious group, the Third Order of Saint Francis. How much do you have to pay a research subject to be crucified? Nothing. They would have paid me. Everyone wanted to go up and see what it felt like. And this is, how do you say his name? Z-U-G-I-E.
On page 160, so right next to like what you were just saying, that like that little snippet of like Barbet, like you know, amputating an arm 2/3 of the way. I just wrote yikes in that margin.
Yeah, the so his name was Fred. Thank you for saying page 160 because that made me look over. His name was Frederick Zugibe. I don't know how to say his last name. Zugaib. He's a gruff, overworked medical examiner for Rockland County, New York, who spends his spare time researching the crucifixion and barbet bashing at what he calls shroudy conferences around the world. So it is interesting. He wound up getting people together to be crucified. So listen, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. Never.
That should just be the official MCBC disclaimer.
Listen, I never yuck your yum. If you're into that, go for it. But this sentence here, he said he's using leather straps, not nails. Over the years, I'm going to call him Frederick because I don't know how to say his last name, has occasionally received calls from volunteers seeking the real deal. Would you believe me? A girl called me and wanted me to actually nail her.
The phrasing of that is so bad.
Yes.
With this group where they put plates on their face, they surgically alter their heads. They, oh God, I don't want to say, okay, I'm going to stop talking before I get banned on all social channels. Listen, if you're into it, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my next question is, would anybody donate their body to science before they died?
I'm gonna go no.
What about the crash test dummy people who were letting themselves get like whacked with stuff? It's kind of donating to science before you die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also do what, like, medical trials. They have food trials, like all that stuff for life.
I just did a medical trial.
Yeah.
I got $300. I got a little more than $300, but my base pay was $300. All I had to do was wear the Ortho-K contact lenses for 3 months every day.
Interesting.
The hardest part was having to be forced to wear them for 8 hours a night and get 8 hours of sleep because I don't sleep.
And then I think they, you know, sometimes there's compensation. That's what gets people to do it too.
Yeah.
And
Amazon gift cards and what have you.
Yeah.
That will definitely be a topic in our 9 Pints book, I'm sure. That will be brought up again.
I will not be getting on that soapbox today.
Fascinating. Well, I mean, we've been, I did want to read, so for those of you who have not picked up a updated copy and did not read the epilogue, there is a great section at the end here where Mary Roach actually writes a letter to,
I cried.
I did
I
too. She said on page 299, I am finally filling out the paperwork for a university body donation program. I'm very curious as to which one. She says, along with it, I plan to submit a letter for the medical students or researchers in whose service my dead self will one day wind up. This is what she says. Hello there. Pardon my appearance. I have a pretty good sense of how I must look because I spent some time around cadavers for a book I wrote. I thought I'd share a little background about the pale form with which you'll soon be intimately acquainted. At 61, as I write this, all my organs seem to be working fine. Who knows which ones will one day betray me? That's for you to discover. I was always pretty scrawny. I once won first prize in a knobby knee contest. My right knee invariably, and for no discernible reason, sets off airport metal detectors. Have a look, will you? Perhaps aliens implanted something without my knowledge. I'm kidding there. No, you're not, Mary. When you open up my brain, you won't find any gray matter devoted to UFOs or astrology or conspiracy theories, just facts and memories, insecurities and everyday anxieties, and the lyrics to every pop hit and television theme song from the 1970s. My feet served me well and without complaint. I rarely wore heels and hope no one feels I have to anymore. They wandered around on tundra moss and lava beds, on the hard snow of the Antarctic ice field, the common deck of a ballistic missile submarine, the worn linoleum of obscure and far-flung research labs. I logged millions of miles with this body, and I hope you do the same with yours. The world is astonishing. I'll never know the particulars of what you'll be doing with my cold hull, but I trust it will be educational. All that is good and noble in this world begins with education. Learn well and live well. And if you post pictures of me on the internet, I will track you down in hell. which, oh my God, I get goosebumps every time I read that. It's
Love it.
fantastic. Love Mary. All the love to Mary. This was such a great book, and I'm glad for the most part it was wildly loved. Any other last minute thoughts? We chatted for about an hour and a half. That's a great discussion time. Anything else we didn't hit on that we wanted to hit on? I'm sobbing.
I also, in the same vein, feel like I really appreciated, I rarely read acknowledgements, but I appreciate that she ends the acknowledgements with, and finally, my gratitude to UM006, H, Mr. Blank, Ben, the big guy in the sweatpants, and the owners of the 40 heads. You are dead, but not forgotten.
Yeah.
I just appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I get goosebumps every time I track you down in hell part. Yeah. And the part about the high heels. Amen.
Yeah.
Love it. Tears. So yeah, let me know. Let me know which book you guys planning on reading next from Mary Roach. Sounds like Bonk is popular. You bunch of sluts.
Oh, please.
I do. I thought I didn't own Gulp. I do. I have it. I don't think. I think I have them all. I don't know. I think I might be missing a few, but I'm curious about all of them. So I'm curious to see which ones you guys are going to read next. But I did want to show you guys next month. We are going to be reading Andrea Langford's Trail of the Lost, the relentless search to bring home the missing hikers of the Pacific Crest Trail. Ooh, and I have read this one already. I definitely have a lot of thoughts and feels. Thank you so much, Michael, for hanging out. Yes, Jen, Spook was rebranded. It is now called
6 feet over.
6 feet under, 6 feet over. Yeah,
6 feet over, I believe.
6 feet over, and it's it is a purple cover now. I have them all on the shelf behind me, but it would require me to move a bunch of shit. So anyway, this is our next topic. We're going to be talking about hiking, which if you are a hiker, I am not. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. Especially Kimberly, I'm trying to get you on the call next month. We can talk about that here in a bit because you have hiked the Pacific Crest Trail or some of it. And shout out to my friend Ashley, who is also a hiker, who will be joining us on the call. Oh my God, I need to rearrange myself here. So that will be June 29th, 2025. And I did want to show you guys this really quick. We do have some Pride merch that I'm waiting on my shirt to come in. Let me share my screen really quick. So this is all on our website. I should have went further back to show you guys, but we do have a bunch of stuff. Obviously, Annie is wearing this one right now, which is our collab with Ah Sweet Death. Thank you so much for wearing. I think that's the same shirt, that the same color I got. But we do have a couple different options, but we do have this new Pride one. So the back says "Stay Weird, we read with Pride." The front does have the little morbidly curious guy up here, and I will put this in the chat if you guys are interested. Let's go, gays.
I read that in the "Let's go, girl."
I know, right? Hi, gay. Well, I always think of the Trixie and Katya. We do have different options as well, including crop tees. And I have noticed that the women's tie-dye, I don't remember if it was, I do have youth tees as well, if you guys would like that. I can't remember which one it was, but maybe it was a classic tie-dye. Some of the colors do look like certain flags. So this looks like the Bi flag. We do have the regular rainbow. I don't know how well these letters will show up, and this I believe looks similar to the lesbian flag. So we do have some of those options if you guys are into that. Can't remember which one I ordered. I might have just done the traditional black and white. The tie-dye, of course, is all done, so it's never going to look exactly like this. So you might get more purple and splotchy, so you never know how it's going to look, but very comfortable. Love their stuff. Bonfire's great. And we have a couple different options and different things that you guys can grab. So those are over there. Read with Pride, friends. And those stickers did come in the June box. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was such a fun discussion. Learned a lot. I think people learned a lot. I'm going to now look more into donating my body to my alma mater. I think that would be super cool. I love Western Carolina, and it's in Western obviously the Western North Carolina mountains, which is one of my favorite places ever. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you guys don't mind sticking around while I end the stream, and then of course I will see you guys next month, if you'd like to hang out in the Discord, you certainly can. Go hang out and chat as like a palate cleanser and podcast. Check that out. Can't think of anything else. More stuff is coming. And subscribe to the BookBox service if you guys are able to do so. That greatly helps not only our small business, but another small business as well. So thank you guys so much. I will see you soon. For now, what's my sign off? Stay safe out there, stay curious, and think about donating your body to science. Let's give that a gander, eh? Bye, friends. Bye.